may not be your boundaries, and then depends on somebody else. Even if you're in a relationship also, the person may have their boundaries, you may have your boundaries, but where do you find balance between that? So we know once you cross that line, that's a no-no for me. Or once you go there, I don't think I can, like, I can maybe forgive you, but that doesn't mean, like, we're gonna go there. Or I
Yeah.
can maybe forget about this or move past to it, but that doesn't mean, like, you don't have to prove yourself even more. Because yes, you can forgive to let like, even I'll tell you something personally right now. I have a three rules that I apply in almost everything. Like, I have, like, what I call, like, my three rules of things. I always give people the chance to fuck up, like, once. Like, at least I give that chance. You can fuck up at least once.
Yeah.
You can mess up once. That one time. Because if I just met you, or if it's just someone that was in an environment and the person never deceived you, because we have to understand we are going to be deceived, and mostly by people closest to us sometimes. And how do we face that? So when those things happen, I always give people like that one first chance. You can fuck up one time, but now another time, now that you are aware of it, and then can you take accountability? Because that can give me
Yes.
also an a views of where you're standing, what you're thinking, what was your true intentions in the actions, because we are all learning. And the second time, then that's another thing. That's when now, you know for sure that, like, things cannot go back the same way they were. The third times, it's a ciao bye, like, thank you, like, we're good.
Yeah, I agree. It's levels because I'm
Mm-hmm.
the same way when it comes to forgiveness. It's like if you've offended me, you've done something once, and also also if you like are doing the same things, if someone were to like I don't know, take the last whatever from the fridge. It's like, hey, like I'm really particular about my waters. Don't take this water. Like, and they just keep doing it. It's like, okay, like you just don't care. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like versus like, okay, they took a water and then they took your last piece of cake and it's like, okay, well, I didn't know you wanted the cake.
Hmm.
So, it depends like that for me. So it would be harder to kind of differentiate between should I just forgive you and you just really want forgiveness or like do you just not respect me altogether? So that's kind of how I think of it.
But I mostly think forgiveness is linked to boundaries, because we can talk about our pet peeves, because we all have pet peeves. Pet peeves are normal. You can have things that, like, you're living with somebody, they do certain thing, yes. But forgiveness has more to do with boundaries. What are the boundaries that we have? What are the things
Mhm.
that we think is acceptable and unacceptable on a certain level? But when it touch our morals and values, that's where I think where it stands the most.
Yeah, true, true. So now that we've kind of like talked about forgiving others, when it comes to forgiving ourselves, Leanne, do you think that forgiving yourself is more difficult than forgiving others?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for yourself, because you just have everyone have different standards for themselves, and what they say, like you're the harshest critic of yourself, and that is just so true. Because sometimes like memories can be deceiving in the sense that you might not necessarily remember what the other person does, but you'll always remember how you feel in that certain moment, like whether it's guilt or like any type of anger, sadness, jealousy. You'll always like you can hold on to that for a long time if you choose to. So it can definitely be a very long journey to heal yourself from what happened and to release yourself from those feelings, because for the other persons, when they do something to like make it up, given that it's not something very serious, or if they do something that um, show that they've already changed to a better person, it makes you so much easier to forgive them. Whereas even if you become a better person, it's so much harder for you to see that for yourself.
True. True, I agree. Anyone have anything they want to add to that? Anybody have any difficulties with forgiving themselves? Any examples of lately?
I have a take on the opposite side.
Okay.
It's super
Yeah.
easy to forgive myself. As a matter of fact, I'm the first one to do it. Um,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I don't know if I'm a psychopath or what, but if
We won't
something
call you
happens,
that.
no, well, I appreciate it. If something happens, I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, RJ. We good? We good? All right, let's be mad at that person. Um, So I don't know what it is. No, in all seriousness, I tend to forgive myself pretty easily. I don't try to I forgive anybody easily, honestly, I think. Unless it's something super big that is going to affect me for years, because I just want to let it go. I don't have time to be, focused on this and have that weight of the
Held
world on my
down.
shoulders.
Well,
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
RJ, can I ask you something?
for sure.
Like, what if this person that you've wronged is just someone who's such a good person, so innocent, just would, does not deserve to be wronged? I mean, is it any different with the type of person that you have wronged?
Mm. I
Yes,
like
I
it.
would say yeah.
Like that
Uh,
question.
yeah, it would definitely be harder for me to forgive myself for doing something to someone that, like, if they're so good and so innocent and really, really undeserving of whatever I said to them, because most of the time it's going to be something I said, then then I'll just be like, dang, I'll mull it over for a few days, but then I'm good.
Hmm.
Right on.
I see. He doesn't really like to, and you have so many different, personalities, and that's what I love about this. You have, different personalities that would have a different take on things. So you, I guess, seem like the, like outgoing, kind of like go with the flow, like easygoing,
Hmm.
type of personality that would feel that way about a situation, whereas someone else who is like very strategic, very, I don't know, black and white with things
Right.
is like, they would have to kind of like take some time. They're probably more critical of themselves. So it just depends on your personality and like your take on that. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's mostly about the feeling that you feel when you did that wrong thing. So if it's very small, like if you're just like teasing your friends or anyone, then it's fine. Like if they also don't make a big deal of it, then I think
Hmm.
it's it's a complete different situation. Yeah. And it's also like about the boundaries that you set with yourself as well.
Hmm.
That the degree of how you let things affect you. And I think that it's also like what we said before, if you do something like crossing the line into someone else's relationship, then that's a complete story, a completely different thing.
Right, right. You have emotions that gets involved. So okay, so devil's advocate again. So if we have a situation where we are talking about like a murderer, like killing, when we get into subjects like molestation, harming babies, people taking advantage of the elderly, things like this, that tend to be a little bit harder to forgive someone or understand even. How would you extend compassion and especially if the person is not remorseful for it. Let's throw that in there too. Someone who is not remorseful, say they like, I don't know, kicked an old lady over the street, or I don't know, something like that. Like, what would you be able to forgive that person any less, or kind of what is your thought process with that, Santiago?
Yeah, so this is like a weird thing to like drop the, I guess, bombshell into the conversation, but like, so for me, I don't believe in free will. So the way by which people arrive to that kind of destination, to doing something horrible and not feeling any remorse, for me, in the way that I understand the human mind and development and and the nature of free will, or rather the illusion of free will, is that everyone got there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be really difficult for yourself to understand, to put yourself in the brain space of that person that still doesn't feel any remorse for it. And that is the difficulty in forgiveness. But for the way that I view the world, in that I don't believe in free will, people got there somehow. There are things that happened in someone's life. They were abused. They were, uh, they got dealt the wrong hand in life, and somehow rolled all the dice to get psychopath. And now they're doing terrible things. And so for my own beliefs, I think that, like, yes, I understand in the sense that you got there, and that is unfortunate, and it is even more unfortunate that other people had to suffer because you got dealt this bad hand, and this is the resulting behavior, and it sucks for everyone.
So would it
But-
not be difficult? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, and so it's like, so with my understanding of, or I guess with my belief in free will or lack thereof, is that, like, I forgive in the sense that, like, I can understand that this is how a person got there and did this thing. I can forgive that this is what happened, and I'm sorry that that the circumstances led you to get to this point. And so it's like, it's more like pity rather than like hatred.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think that, and sometimes there are like very clear-cut cases where, like, oh, someone had like a brain tumor that was like pushing into their amygdala, and they were like stuck in fight or flight, and so they like killed people, and like once they did the autopsy on the person, they found that they had a tumor. And like, wow, like, if this is the sort of information that you could get in every circumstance, and be like, let's just take apart everyone's entire life and see what led to their transgressions, you might be more willing to kind of understand, maybe not like be okay with it, but at least understand, like, these are the things that led to this person getting here. And while it still sucks and people are hurt, I can be okay with the fact, or not even so much I can be, it's that I have to be okay with the fact. I have to accept the fact that it happened, because I can't do anything about it. And so the only thing that I can do is let go and try and make the world a better place afterwards.
Yeah.
Or you said you can't do anything about it. I beg to differ. If someone is killing a murderer is out there, I would expect us to do everything we can within this justice system that we do have,
right.
to try to seek justice for the person who has been murdered, and therefore to try to prevent this person from murdering again.
Yes.
Now,
definitely.
as far as free will, you have some very interesting thoughts that I would love to hear about. But this is not that platform. Because
Another episode.
Yeah, that's very.
I do have a podcast called Bit Depth where you can find out more about these kinds of conversations I have.
Everybody listening, do that, because I know I will. But as far as the forgiving people who have no remorse, that's where I draw the line, honestly. There's no remorse for me. There's no compassion for you.
I agree with that, RJ. I really agree with that. And as I was listening to you guys, and it even touches me, because when I think about it, if you think on both sides, let's just say if it's you in the position where somebody did something to a loved one or someone close to you or your children or something like this, you could see red in the moment. Like for me, I'm a mother. And I always said that to myself, if somebody touched my kids, it's a no for me. That's where the boundaries
completely lose it.
Stop for me there, because I don't even have to think about it. I already know I'm gonna go there, But when you put it on the other side, if you're gonna say that, well, if somebody else actually react the same way or do something else, then like we talking about remorse and all of that, but I don't know to what point you're gonna say that you have remorse, because I can say, I'm gonna have remorse if somebody did something to my children, but in the moment I know I'm not gonna have any. I'm impulsive, first of all. I'm very protective of minds, and I'm really like the type of person where I don't know. There's certain things for me I don't play with. I don't understand it. That's the whole thing. I'm trying to to, like, when we talk about like murderer or child abuser or pedophilia or anything, I don't understand it. So therefore, to me, it's like I cannot get there emotionally even to connect to that person to be like, oh, so now you're feeling sorry. But all those type of things, there's a lot of question we could sit down, and the existential question we could sit down and ask ourselves, because I could wonder how did somebody get there to that point to go there. But